Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another video, guys. This is going to be a book review on King's book, Firestarter. But I kind of want to just delve into something real quick and kind of just have a quick conversation with you guys, if you will. So I have said on this channel before that King is my favorite author. I've also said that Louis L'Amour is my favorite or one of my favorite authors. And I feel like I need to kind of clarify a little bit, to be honest with you guys. I have not read most of King's work. That being said, though, King has written my favorite book of all time, which is The Shining. Um, and so, I kind of felt a little bit like a hypocrite, I guess, because, having said that, you would think that I've read most, if not all, of his works, in his bibliography and whatnot. So I kind of felt a little bit like a hypocrite, and I didn't realize how severe it was that everybody says, "Oh, I like Stephen King. He's my favorite author." When I bought this lot of books from my local used bookstore, when I was actually checking out, the girl working behind the counter said, "Oh, do you actually read these, or you just collect them?" And I said, "What?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, we get a lot of people in here that buy King's books, and they say that he's their favorite author, but they just kind of collect them. They don't really read them." So that kind of got me thinking, like, okay, not saying that that's bad either way, but which category do I fall under? And I kind of again felt like a hypocrite. So I was bound and determined, said, you know what, I'm going to go and read King's books. I'm not going to just say I've read the more popular ones and say I'm a King fan. I feel like I need to do a deep dive into all of his works and whatnot. And so out of the stack that I got, I figured, you know what, let's start off with one of his more well-known ones, which is Firestarter. um, so let's get into that review though. I just kind of want to get that out in the open there, that I'm trying to transition from being somebody who just collects his works and has only read like his top 4 or 5, most famous books, and as someone who's read, books that there are deep cuts, if you will. Let's get into this. What is Firestarter about, guys? Well, Firestarter is about a little girl named Charlie and her dad. Essentially, what happens is you have this government entity called the Shop, and they are if I'm not mistaken, they are like a branch of the CIA. And so this book opens up with Charlie and her dad on the run, if you will, trying to evade the Shop. And so as this book goes on, we come to find out how Charlie and her dad got to be chased down by the Shop and whatnot, and how long they've been on the run and what led up to this and whatnot. Without going into any spoilers or anything like that, we find out that Charlie's dad ended up signing up for a study, if you will, in college, just to try to make a quick couple $100, which doesn't sound like a lot nowadays, but back when this book was written, a couple $100 was a good chunk of change. I mean, it still is. But so we find out, what they kind of did to him and whatnot. But this whole book, the purpose of this book is the fact that you had the Shop trying to chase down Charlie and her dad, and they are trying to see. They had this inkling that Charlie might have like a telekinesis power, and so they're trying to figure out, does she? And they're trying to capture them. And so, like I said, most of this book is about them just trying to evade them and all the stuff that happens in there and whatnot. And I just want to start off by saying that this feels like a more fleshed out version of Carrie. To me personally, I kind of wanted to take a week and think on this book and whatnot, because I didn't really know how I felt about it. I enjoyed it enough to pick up another King book right after finishing this one. But, I'm one of those, when I think of Stephen King, I think of his horror books. But, at this point, he's written probably more books that aren't horror related than actual horror books. But he is the king of horror, so that's what everybody associates him with. But again, I want to take the week and think on it, and just kind of figure out what I thought, and felt about this book. Because I never want to lie in a review to you guys. I don't want to sell you something, a load of BS or anything like that. And to be honest with you guys, I feel kind of indifferent on this book, to be, completely 100% honest with you guys. Is this a book that I see myself rereading? Maybe. Again, when I think of King, I think of, horror books and whatnot. Would I read this over like Carrie? Yes. I would probably pick this up before I would Carrie. What I will say about this book is, I enjoyed the fact that most of this book is them trying to evade the shop. I feel like the shop is a entity villain that I feel like I want to read more about them. I want to kind of hear about the formation of them and whatnot. I want to hear about the different branches of the shop and different people in there and whatnot. I will say that the villain in this book, the Native American villain, if you will, is kind of on another level, in my opinion. He is kind of a monster, if you will, the way that King describes him. There's pure evil, and then there's somebody who would is sane enough to realize that they are a bad guy, and yet they put on a persona to act like they aren't. I think that's something in this book that will probably stick with me is, you have in King's books and other books, you obviously you have your boogeymans, in movies, for example, you have your Michael Myers, your Jason Voorhees and whatnot. And for the most part, they tend to leave kids alone. I think the villain in this is truly a monster, to be honest with you guys. The fact that, not only just the shop, but the specific villain themselves, the fact that they're trying to target a child is something that is pure evil on a whole nother level, to be honest with you guys, in my opinion. And I say this as someone who's about to be a father, that just the idea of that kind of terrifies me in a way. So I will give this book that, the fact that we're seeing somebody try to gain the trust of a child and put on a persona is definitely scary. Very, very scary and very realistic, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just, again, it's on a whole nother level. So when you look at it that way, I feel like the main villain in this book will definitely stick with you. What I will say, and I wanted to kind of delve into this again. I tried not to spoil anything. Give me 1 second here, guys. What I will say, there is a part in this book where I got very, very upset with the father. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And the best example that I have for this is if you've ever seen the movie, Billy Madison. I do apologize, slight spoiler here. In this book, we see that Charlie and her dad have been captured by the shop. They're kind of held in a containment place and whatnot, and kind of like cells, and extremely nice cells. I will say that it's like a Homewood Suites. Like they had like a little kitchenette and whatnot and TV. But we see that Charlie's dad, he's just kind of become addicted to this drug and whatnot. He's kind of given up. And as I was thinking about this through the week, the thing that came to mind that made me think about this was, if you've ever seen the movie Billy Madison, where Billy's in, I think it was a kindergarten or whatever, and Miss Lippy reads the Lost Puppy book or whatever, and she goes through the book, and at the end, Adam Sandler gives that monologue of, you get off your ass, you find that puppy, you do this, you don't give up, what? That's kind of what my thinking was on this. Like, dude, what are you doing? This is your kid. You're kind of drugged up, I understand, but you need to get off it. You got to do something. You can't be drugged. You have spent this entire time trying to evade these people. If you were going to just give up now, this kind of defeats the whole purpose leading up to this. And that's gonna be my little tangent on this. Is it definitely King got got my anger up a little bit, if you will, trying to just wanting to shake the father and say, dude, you got to do something. You can't let them get to your kid. So again, King writing his characters in this book, as always, really good, really good. I wish that he would delve a little bit deeper into the father and Charlie. I wish we could have seen a little bit more interaction there. Again, I think the shop as a villain entity, great. The main villain specifically, and if you read this book, you know who I'm talking about. Very, very evil. Probably one of the more scarier, more realistic characters that King has written. I think the only one that probably would be more scarier, in all honesty, would probably be Annie Wilkes. But that's on a different level, or different spectrum of evil. But again, guys, Firestarter by Stephen King. I know I've kind of been rambling on at this point. Do I recommend this book? Yes, I see why this is one of King's more well-known books. Obviously, outside the movie with Drew Barrymore and whatnot, and that where I understand the awful remake. I think this book definitely was better than Carrie as far as the telekinesis part of it. Obviously Carrie's not that long, whereas this is a 400 something page book. Again, I really enjoyed the deep dive into the characters and whatnot. And again, yeah, I recommend this book. Is it my favorite? No. Would I reread this book? Probably. I could see myself a few years down the line rereading this. Do I think that there's a couple things that King could have done a little better in this book? Yes, but again, I think every author has something that they could do a little bit better in their book. In all honesty, even the book that we define as, the perfect book, if you will, there's always something that could be tweaked a little bit, I think, to make it a little better. So don't let that be a deterrent for this book. Always recommend give it a try for yourself. We're just people on YouTube with cameras who'd like to talk about books. So don't take our word, for 100% set in stone. Just read the book yourself. But like I said, Firestarter by Stephen King, I do recommend it. Again, I see why this is one of his more well-known books. Probably mid-tier book, if I had to guess. It's not along the lines of, The Shining, Misery, Salem's Lot, anything like that. But it's a tier right below that, in my honest opinion. But again, guys, like I said, just kind of want to get on here, kind of let you guys know that I do expect to have more King reviews on the channel. So stay tuned. And as always, y'all have a good one.